You've been walking all day. Your mouth is dry, your legs are slowing, and then you hear it, running water. The stream is cold, clear, and completely inviting. But there are animals upstream, invisible waste in the current, and no test kit in your pocket. You need to drink. You also need to survive what you drink. How did ancient humans know which water was safe? The honest answer is they often didn't. Clear water can carry parasites. A muddy spring can be safer than a sparkling river, and for most of human history, nobody could see the microscopic things that made them sick. Ancient people survived by solving a slightly different problem. They learned where water was usually safe enough, which sources failed, and how to reach the reliable ones again. That knowledge began with the landscape. Nearly 2 million years ago, early humans lived around Olduvai Gorge in what is now Tanzania. The area had a lake, but its water could become salty and alkaline. Geological research suggests freshwater springs existed nearby between roughly 1.84 and 1.36 million years ago. These springs were unusually dependable. Even when the climate shifted and drought lasted for decades, groundwater could continue rising through the earth. A group that remembered the spring had a reason to return. A group that forgot, it could be gambling with thirst. Finding water was partly observation. Green vegetation in a dry area might reveal moisture beneath the soil. Animal tracks could lead toward a drinking place. Birds gathering around dawn or dusk could signal nearby water. Damp sand in a dry creek bed might hide a small supply below the surface. But none of these signs were guarantees. Animals can drink water that makes humans ill. A green patch can surround stagnant water. Even a familiar pool can become contaminated after flooding or after an animal dies nearby. So experience mattered more than any single clue. People learned which spring kept flowing during dry months, which pool turned foul after heavy rain, and which hollow still held water when the river disappeared. They watched, remembered, and passed the information on. Traditional Aboriginal knowledge in Australia preserves a powerful example of this kind of survival map. In arid country, water can be hidden in rock holes, sockages, roots, and beneath apparently dry ground. Finding it requires knowing the country closely, its plants, its animals, its seasons, and the names of particular places. Ngalia cultural knowledge holder Kato Muir expressed the relationship simply: where there is kapi, there is jira. Where there is water, there is home. That is the part we often miss. Clean water was not merely something an individual stumbled across. It was social knowledge. A spring could be remembered in a story. A route could be taught during a journey. A water hole could become part of a group's seasonal movement. Once humans could carry water, that map became larger. At Diepkloof Rock Shelter in South Africa, archaeologists found pieces of engraved ostrich eggshell dating back about 60,000 years. Some of these shells had been carefully pierced and appear to have been used as water containers. An ostrich egg may not look like advanced technology, but it changes the problem completely. You no longer need to remain beside the spring. You can collect water, seal it, carry it across dry land, and share it later. A container also protects water from some immediate contamination. It keeps dirt from blowing in and prevents every drinker from leaning over the same muddy edge. It does not sterilize the water, but it gives people control over when and where they drink. They may also have allowed cloudy water to settle or strained out visible debris. Boiling is physically simple once people have fire and heat-safe containers, although proving exactly when it became a routine water treatment is difficult. Removing grit is not the same as removing microbes, and ancient people could not measure that difference. They learned from consequences instead. Drink here, and people often recover. Drink there after the rains, and stomach sickness follows. That lesson could be imperfect and painfully expensive. Humans probably endured repeated infections from water throughout prehistory. Children, older people, and anyone already weakened would have been especially vulnerable. Ancient survival was not a story of everyone choosing correctly. It was a story of enough people learning enough patterns to keep the group going. Eventually, humans began reshaping the landscape itself. At Ostrov in the Czech Republic, archaeologists uncovered a remarkably preserved wooden well. Tree ring dating showed that its oak timbers were cut around 5256 or 5255 BCE. The builders created a square wooden lining that reached down into the ground. Instead of repeatedly searching for surface water, they built direct access to groundwater near their settlement. That required planing, timber working, labor, and shared trust. Somebody had to understand where to dig. Others had to help construct it. The well then became infrastructure, a dependable place the community could return to. This did not make disease disappear. Wells can also become contaminated, but protected groundwater is often less exposed than an open pool visited by animals, stirred by feet, and filled by dirty runoff. Modern research hints at how strongly a water source can shape human health. A study of Hadza communities in Tanzania compared people using spring water with people using stream water. The water source was the strongest measured factor associated with differences in their gut microbiomes. That does not tell us exactly what happened thousands of years ago. It does show that two groups living in a similar region can carry different microbial communities simply because they drink from different places. Ancient humans did not need a germ theory to notice that places produced patterns. They ranked water by experience. Flowing springs were often preferable to stagnant pools. Groundwater could be more reliable than a shrinking lake. Familiar sources were safer bets than unknown ones. Stored water extended travel. Wells turned memory into construction, and sometimes they still got sick. That is the real answer. Ancient people were not magically able to recognize clean water. They survived because generations turned trial, error, observation, and loss into a shared mental map. Today, you open a tap and trust the result. Somewhere beyond the wall, water has been collected, filtered, tested, treated, and carried through a system built by people you will never meet. You trust water because a hidden system now does the remembering for you. Ancient humans survived because they became that system for one another.